We're back, bitches.
Hi.
Hi.
What's up?
What's up? We are back, guys. It has been 7 months since we graced your cars or your homes or wherever it is you listen to us. I listen to most podcasts when I DoorDash. So perhaps we were joining you on your food delivery adventures. How are you, Laura?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. 7 months. It's been a minute. So this is going to be a shaky back to school endeavor for us. We're on a new platform. I forgot how to use the controls, so we'll see how this goes. As usual, we still don't have a producer. That is me, but we're happy to be back. I have missed recording so much.
Me too.
The
It's always
research,
fun.
yeah, and doing deep dives and going down rabbit holes in some of these amazing locations. And we are coming up next month, actually in a couple of weeks. I think 3 weeks. 5-year anniversary of History of
Wow.
a Podcast. Yeah, 5 years. 5 years, baby. So I'm very proud. I'm glad that we're back just in time for that special anniversary. You would think after that long we would run out of locations to talk to you about, but we have a long list and it just grows and grows and grows and grows. So we're going to be sticking with you for a very, very long time. So Laura, what have you been doing the last 7 months?
Working, kid stuff. Same old, really. Did a little traveling.
Oh yeah.
Normal.
Where'd you go? Normal. Where'd you go?
Well, in the past 7 months, shit.
Yeah.
Well, I went to Roswell last weekend,
Ooh, that's
which was super fun, and New Mexico is a crazy place, but
that's where
beautiful.
weren't you camping? Do you guys go camping there at the night
Dark
sky?
sky.
Yeah, the dark sky.
Sanctuary.
Yeah. And then you saw those weird lights or bubbles or something.
The UFO-y things, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we went to the Yucatan. I think we're still doing the show then. I can't remember. No, I guess not.
No, huh?
And shoot, just about. I went about.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. How about you? What have you been doing?
I have let's see, February. God damn, February was our last episode. We did Bigfoot at the beginning of February. So Laura and I both turned 47 since then.
Shut your mouth.
You didn't need to say that, Carrie. So yeah, I had a birthday and started a skincare company, which most of you will have seen on our social media for the podcast. I've been promoting that. It's called This Little Light of Mine Skincare, and Ms. Laura and her beautiful girlfriend were VIPs. They got products before the shop opened. So why don't you be my reviewer and tell me what you think? Tell everybody what you think of my amazing product.
They are amazing. Actually, they really are. They are awesome and they smell good. And everybody that I have introduced them to, they love them. So can't go wrong.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. I've been working on it for over a year. I think last June, I think after we went to OSR is when I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to open a skincare company. So we have bath bombs and body scrubs and lotion and body butters and magnesium sprays, which are actually our top seller. We have magnesium sprays, which I was really surprised about. But what else do we have? Oh, shimmer body oils. That's another one everybody loves, is those shimmer body oils. So I've had a really good time with that. We just introduced our fall line. You can visit us if you would like to. We would be very happy if you did. Shop at thislittlelightofmineskincare.com because our listeners are very near and dear to my heart. You guys, all you have to do is use code HOAH15, and you'll get 15% off your first order with us. So we've got all kinds of stuff, lavender scented stuff. Everything is crystal energy and Reiki infused. Erin Bush is our Reiki master. You guys know, we've had her on the show. She's the one that infuses everything with Reiki. So you get the benefit of the product. You get the benefit of the Reiki energy that's in it. Every line has its own intention and own Reiki that's in it. And then you get the crystal energy, and then you also get the aromatherapy benefit as well. So yeah, we're really excited about that. This little line of mine opened in April. I went to Gettysburg. I was a vendor at Gettysburg. Had the best time there. They moved locations because they outgrew the Wyndham. So they're in this big, huge space. I got to meet John Zaffis. For those of you who are, big fans of the paranormal, John Zaffis is known as the godfather of the paranormal. He's a very wonderful man. Got to meet some folks from the Tennessee Wraith Chasers. Did fangirled about that. Got my nose pierced, sold a bunch of product for this little light while we were there. So I'm going back again next year. And then what else did we do? Well, there's something else. Oh, we had our private overnight, our podcast event at Ohio State Reformatory in August. We had that event. There were like 15 of us, and we got to run around the infamous Ohio State Reformatory the entire night. We had gift bags for everybody, and we had a really great time. Laura was unable to come, and we missed you. Everybody was like, "Where's Laura?" Yeah. So
work, man.
Work, yeah. So yeah, we had a good time with that. Only a couple hiccups. Otherwise, it was really smooth. But it was one of those things where I was like, I drove up on the overnight was Sunday night. I drove up. I left 6 a.m. Sunday morning. Drove up there. Went straight to the investigation. Investigated until 2:30 in the morning, and drove all the way back home that night. It's a 10-hour drive.
Crazy Daisy.
I was a lunatic. But other than that, I am also opening up another new business. It's going to be called Let It Shine Spiritual Wellness. So it's going to be a spiritual wellness center where you can get soul therapy, and you can get Reiki therapy, chakra clearing, psychic medium readings. I've got 4 people that are joining it with me, and we're going to be opening soon and taking bookings soon. So if you're struggling with some, spiritual things and you need a little bit of help, you can see me or any one of my colleagues. So I'm starting that business, and we're hoping to open in the next couple of weeks. So you'll see more about that. So it goes hand in hand with this little light of mine skincare. It's called Let It Shine Spiritual Wellness. So I've been a busy bee in the last 7 months.
Yeah, you have. All right.
I know. I just want to be my own boss. I'm tired of working for other people. So I'm going to make it happen in any possible way that I can. And so I've started 2 companies that I own now. So I'm excited.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yay. So that is us, guys. We hope you have been having a good spring and summer. Now we're into fall. Let's see. What do we have here? We don't have, those are really just the EVPs. That's what we've been doing while we have been on our hiatus. We are back now, back in business. We have a long list of really cool locations that we're going to bring you. And today is no different. Laura, why don't you tell them where we're taking them today?
All right. Today we are going to Bobby Mackey's Music World.
Yes. Bobby Mackey's. This one's actually been on the list since Archie and I started the podcast in 2019. And for whatever reason, we just never got to it. And didn't we talk about maybe trying to go and investigate it? Wasn't that on one of our...
We did. Yeah. We were kind of talking about it a while ago. But
yeah.
alas, that's not going to happen right now. So.
Yeah. For sure. So yeah, no, it is not. And we'll tell you why here in a bit, guys. But we are back. Laura is up first. Let me figure out how to put you first.
No.
Um,
We can just watch your face react to me. That's perfect.
yeah, that's what everybody wants. What do I do? How do I do that? You
That's
said
good. Just keep us even. We're good.
keep us even.
Yeah.
Maybe I. Hey,
All right.
hey!
There you go. All right.
There we go. We're not going to be showing you our sources anymore, guys. I think we stopped doing that a couple episodes ago, but you can find them in our show notes, and Laura will rattle them off, and as will I.
Yeah. So I will still tell you what they are. TheLittleHouseOfHorrors.com, TheNortherner.com, NKyViews.com, USGenWebsites.org, Wikipedia, and newspapers.com.
Wow, just newspapers in general.com.
It had excerpts from old newspapers from the area, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so pretty cool.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Bobby Mackey's Music World is a nightclub and honky tonk located in Wilder, Kentucky. Urban legends claim that the nightclub is the site of hauntings, murders, and suicides. It is known as the most haunted nightclub in America. The
I like
building,
it. I like
yeah,
that. On a nightclub, there's
hmm
very little of those.
I think we need more,
I
right?
think we need more. I think you and I should open one in
I
the
mean,
Arizona desert.
I mean, the skinwalkers need somewhere to get a drink. I'm just saying. The building where the nightclub is now located has a long and bloody history in the area. So it was constructed back in the 1850s and was one of the largest packing houses in the region for many years. Um, Only a well that was dug in the basement, um, where blood and refuse from the animals was drained, remains from that original building. So the slot, yeah, for real. So it's like if you're gonna keep things, and maybe that's not the part.
Maybe that's going to
Uh,
be
maybe
that up for dead.
no.
Call it a day.
The slaughterhouse closed down in the early 1890s, but legend has it that the building was far from abandoned. According to the lore, the basement of the packing house became a ritual site for occultists. The well was used to hide the remains of small animals that were butchered during their ceremonies. Um, it looks like
Beautiful, isn't it?
that's where he would put that. Fitting. Apparently, a small satanic group made up of local residents gathered at the empty building, managing to practice the rituals in secret. However, they were exposed in 1896 during one of the most spectacular murder trials ever held in Northeast Kentucky.
Ooh, cool.
It was so large that tickets were sold to the hearing, and more than 5,000 people stood outside the Newport, Kentucky courthouse for information about what was taking place inside.
People were fucking shameless then, weren't they?
Dude, what, you think it's better now? We just have them streamed into our house.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, everybody likes it, it's human nature for whatever reason to like the Colosseum. I mean,
Mhm,
we love
yeah,
it. Humans
it
love that
is.
shit.
Death, yeah, death and drama, the whole
Mhm.
bit. We can't get enough of it.
Everybody wants to see a car wreck, not that we want to see them. I'm just saying, like, everybody
You
looks.
can't not look at it. Yeah, like yeah,
Lucky
that's
Goose.
true. I remember when Jodi Arias was on trial in Phoenix for killing
Mm,
Travis Alexander. That I had to go downtown for some crazy reason, and the crowds around the courthouse for people that tried to get in to see
mhm.
just in the courtroom were nuts.
It's crazy.
It is, yeah. Humans are dumb.
For
Maybe
real.
skinwalkers are, got it.
So the trial and the murder that spawned it has become an integral part of Bobby Mackey's haunted history. The story. Pearl Bryan, the daughter of a wealthy farmer, was an attractive young woman who lived in Greencastle, Indiana in 1896.
Oh,
And
I'm from Greencastle.
hmm,
Huh.
unknown to her friends and the polite members of Greencastle society, Pearl was pregnant. She had been seduced by her boyfriend, William Wood, who was the son of a local Methodist minister. Confused and unsure what to do,
Always a
Perlet,
preacher's son, isn't
dude, bad kids.
it?
Um, Confused and unsure what to do, Perlet would convince her to have an abortion. Wood had made arrangements for the operation with a friend of his named Scott Jackson, who was then attending the Ohio College of Dental Surgery in Cincinnati. It seems teeth, babies, whatever.
I
All
mean,
right, same season. All right. Unbeknownst to Wood, Jackson was an alleged member of the occult group that met in the former slaughterhouse in Wilder. So,
ew.
for little geography, Cincinnati, Ohio, is very tippy tip of Ohio South,
Right on the state line.
and right on the state line with Kentucky. So it's very easy to go
Oh,
back
okay,
and forth.
gotcha.
It's right across the river.
Okay.
Um, So Pearl left her parents' home on February 1st, 1896, and told them that she was going to Indianapolis. Instead, she made plans to meet with Jackson and his roommate, Alonzo Walling, in Cincinnati. It would be the last time that her parents would ever see her alive. She was at that time 5 months pregnant.
Ooh, shit.
Yeah. Jackson's medical skills were apparently much more inept than he had led his friend, William Wood, to believe. He first tried to induce an abortion using chemicals, apparently cocaine. This substance was later discovered in Pearl's system during an autopsy. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, after that, he tried to use dental tools, but botched that as well. Your face. After an hour or so, Jackson and Walling had a frightened, injured, and bleeding young woman on their hands, and that's when the story takes an ever darker turn. Um, the three of them left Cincinnati and traveled across the Ohio River and into Kentucky. Jackson took them to a secluded spot near Fort Thomas, and here he and Walling murdered Pearl Bryan. Using dental instruments, they severed her head from her body.
Ah,
It was
Jesus.
it was clean cut, according to the testimony of the doctor who later examined the body. He also determined that Pearl had been alive at the time because the presence of blood on the underside of some leaves at the murder scene.
Yeah.
Pearl's body was found about 200 feet off the Alexandria Turnpike and less than 2 miles from the abandoned slaughterhouse. As her head was nowhere to be found, Pearl was identified by her shoes. They
Ooh.
bore the imprint of Lewis and Hayes, a Greencastle shoe company that was able to confirm that they had been sold to Pearl Bryan. During the trial that followed, Walling testified that it had been Jackson's idea to cut Pearl up and distribute her body in the Cincinnati sewers. Only the head was taken, for which Jackson apparently had other uses.
Eh.
Pearl, Pearl's luxurious blonde hair was later found in a valise in Jackson's room. So,
What?
valise, a suitcase, basically like a little
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Isn't that what that
Mm.
is? Anyway, Pearl's head was never found, and legend has it that it was used during a satanic ritual at the slaughterhouse. It was then dumped into the well of blood and was lost. Jackson and Whaling were brought to trial in 1897 and were quickly found guilty and sentenced to death.
I see why it was such a. I see why it was such a show. Why they sold tickets. I get it.
Yeah.
I see
William
that.
Wood was later arrested and charged as an accomplice. Dude, I haven't done this in so long. I'm like, words.
Words are so hard, guys. It's not going to change.
So sorry. Um, Charges against him were dropped when he agreed to testify against the other two men. According to reports, Jackson and Walling were both offered life sentences instead of execution if they would reveal the location of her head. Both men refused. They went to the gallows behind the courthouse in Newport on March 21st, 1897. It was the last public hanging in Campbell County. So, Newport, Kentucky, used to encompass the city of Wilder and
Oh.
was the original Sin City long before Las Vegas was lit by traffic
Oh.
lights and neon signs.
I
I
know
didn't
that.
know this.
Oh,
In the
wow.
1920s, Newport was declared an independent municipality, exempting it from state and federal control. So casinos like the Flamingo, the Tropicana, and the Jockey Club popped up everywhere. Bootleggers and mobsters ran the city. Bobby
In
Mackey's,
Kentucky.
yeah,
I never knew this.
no, I didn't either until I did the research. I was like, that's wild. Who knew this was going on in Kentucky? Um, Bobby Mackey's was then known as the Primrose Club and later as the Latin Quarter, served as a speakeasy and gambling den.
I love a good speakeasy.
Right? Frank Sinatra gambled in the back room of the casinos on York Street. Dean Martin entertained guests at infamous mafia member Frank Screw Andrews' house parties. And criminal racketeer Melvin Clark collapsed with a bullet lodged in his throat on Central Avenue.
Mm.
This was Newport, desirable and dangerous, commercial and criminal. Between the
Sounds like a lovely
1930s
place
to the
to visit.
1960s, right, the northern Kentucky city was the gambling mecca of the United States. Celebrities such as Marilyn Monroe and Duke Ellington frequented the city. Um, Tourism boosted the city's economy. The streets were clean and the citizens left their doors unlocked. But the city also operated under an open secret. Unofficially governed by mafia members, Newport was a center of illegal activities. The Thompson House, former home of the Tommy gun inventor, was on East 3rd Street, or is on East 3rd Street.
Wow.
Um, yeah, according
Yeah.
to Northern Kentucky University history professor Dr. Paul Tencote, Newport was the predecessor to Las Vegas, a manufactured vacation destination. Tourists flocked to Newport to partake in its formal and informal businesses under the cover of isolation and darkness. So
I
Newport's population
never knew that.
was approximately 30,000 during this era. As soon as night fell, that number rose to 100,000, according to
What?
Tencote. Yes, people would just come in from all over to party and gamble and drink and
And then go home.
yeah. Mhm.
That's wild.
I know. So Hackett said the mafia chose places like Newport and Las Vegas for their limited space and connections. The mob moved into an area that was small enough that the government and police could be bribed. Um, it was okay. So Bobby Mackey's, like I said, it had been like a speakeasy, and then after that, it was a cafe for a time. And then in 1933, the cafe was sold to E.A. Brady, who turned it into a successful casino. Oh no, this is the beginning. Sorry. So after the meat packing and they built it and whatever, and then it was a cafe, and then the cafe became a casino.
Okay.
So in the 30s, in the beginning of this whole Vegas
Situation.
stuff, yeah.
New Vegas.
Sorry, I wrote this a little while ago. It's been a minute. Um, Mr. Brady. All right. So Mr. Brady was cleared in 1946. Hold on, I just lost my place.
Welcome back, guys.
I had the wrong button. All right. So he was cleared in 1946 for a gangland style shooting of Red Masterson, who was one of the operators of the Merchants Club, a rival club.
Okay.
Um, the victim actually stated that he hadn't shot at him, but he was found hiding with weapons and discharged firearms in his vicinity.
Okay, sure.
So, yeah, right. So he didn't do it.
Right.
Totally.
Nobody saw him do it. You can't prove anything.
Right. So this is the mafia stuff that's going on in this town at the time, right?
Right.
Like they're fighting
Right.
back and forth, there are people getting shot like in broad daylight, like, there's just
Holy
stuff
crap.
happening.
Yeah.
So, when Mr. Brady got in trouble, the mafia had noticed the casino's success, right? And they
Mhm.
wanted to get involved.
Of course they did.
And they wanted to buy Brady out so they could take over. Brady refused, and he paid a high price for that. Um, his casino was vandalized many times, and
Uh,
customers were beat up in the parking lot. Brady knew he didn't have a choice, and he sold his casino.
oh my
He
God.
did end up taking his own life in 1965.
Oh,
Yeah. So when Brady sold the casino to the mob, they renamed it as the Latin Quarter.
okay.
Stars such as Ella Fitzgerald played there,
Wow. All right.
right? And there are also claims of more murders
By
during
Ella
this time.
Fitzgerald, or
I mean,
she was killing people right and
eh,
left.
she seems like she'd cut a bitch. I'm just saying.
I mean, listen, I'm gonna fuck with her.
So supposedly the new owner had a daughter named Joanna. Joanna was a dancer at the nightclub.
Mm.
She got pregnant by Robert Randall, who was a performer in the club. And when her father found out about the affair, he was furious. His criminal contacts came in handy, and he made sure Robert never came close to his daughter again.
Uh-oh.
His daughter, 5 months pregnant, I don't know what's up with the 5 months pregnant, committed suicide backstage by taking poison.
Ooh.
Um,
I have heard this story.
yeah, later in the beginning of the 70s, it shortly became a Hard Rock Cafe. Um, yeah, but that didn't last
I'm
long
sorry,
because of a fatal
this building?
mm, in the 70s.
That was awfully small. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just such a small building. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I
I
don't
can't
know,
see
man.
any of this. I have no idea any.
But that didn't last long because of a fatal shooting right in front of it. Then in 1978, Bobby Mackey and his wife Janet bought the place.
Oh my
Since
god.
then, it has gained notoriety for the hauntings. As of March 2024, Bobby Mackey's Music World in Wilder, Kentucky closed its original location and temporarily moved to Florence, Kentucky. The owners plan to demolish the building and rebuild a one-story bar on the site by
Right.
2026. The new
Yeah.
building is expected to last longer than the original, but Bobby says the music will remain the same.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
Bobby Mackey
was
is big crazy.
that is crazy. I definitely heard about Pearl and Joanna, but I didn't know any of that other stuff. Like Bobby Mackey's has been around forever.
Right.
In the world, like everybody has heard of this
Mhm,
place. But I didn't. I mean, I knew it was a slaughterhouse. I knew the mafia was in there somewhere.
mhm.
Um,
I had no idea that town. I
mm-mm.
never knew that in Northern Kentucky there was like a Vegas thing going on.
I didn't either.
Um,
No, I had no idea. No
yeah,
idea.
crazy. So,
Wow,
and
that
like
was
all
so
these
cool.
stars and everything came. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's not just like, okay, people came to gamble or drink. Like it was nationally known. Like
Yes,
people came, like big stars
actually, it
and
increased by 70,000 at night. Could you imagine the traffic? Give me a break. No. Um, holy crap. That's really, really cool. I like that. Let me get my information up here. Do, 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 do. Okay. Hang on a second. I need to. I'm not quite. Oh, hey, I can do it. Oh, that's
yeah.
tiny.
And there's a
Okay.
lot of, there's a lot of speculation and stories that go back and forth about what everything that happened,
Hmm.
around Bobby Mackey's in the area.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy shit that was going on. Not just at Bobby Mackey's, everywhere.
Everywhere. Everywhere. Holy crap. Um. Okay. Wow, that set it up. There's a lot to unpack here with the ghosts, guys. Um, so let me see. Hold on. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. Nope, that's Laura. Sorry, guys. I don't know what I'm doing. I was trying to make. You know what? Forget it. It's not important. Okay. So to the hauntings. My sources are WBALTV.com, an article by Eric Jones, Cincinnati.com, an article and photo credit as well to Haadiza Ogwude, and then HauntedUS.com, TheBitterSoutherner.com, an article titled Honky Tonk Haints by Asher Elbein is heavily used. And then the NKyTribune has a photo credit as well. So, like Laura said, rumors of ghostly apparitions, haunting music, and thrown objects have plagued the location for decades. There was, as you said, a young woman was reportedly murdered and beheaded there in 1896. Her head had never been found, but some think it might be hidden on the property, and it might be at the bottom of the old well in the basement that Laura had talked to us about. A well that has since been called the portal to hell. I would believe it because this doesn't look like a fun place to go.
Yeah, for the listeners, if you could imagine the creepiest place with a hole in the ground, it's pretty
Mhm.
much it. Wood,
Bricks and rotting wood and
mm,
mhm, yeah.
like one singular light bulb
At the
illuminating it.
this door far away on the other side of the well.
Mm,
It's like, hopefully that's not the way out of the
right,
freaking
and just a giant hole in the ground
mhm,
that
yeah,
looks like
that's it.
is eating the floor. Yeah, it's that cool.
No, mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
I get why the stories started at at that specific spot in Bobby Mackey's. Um, so wildly held to not wildly, widely and wildly held to be the most haunted nightclub in the United States. It's an infrastructure that is reported to have over 40 ghosts.
Wow, that's a lot for such a small place.
That's a lot for such a small place, a former Hard Rock Cafe. Um,
I know, I thought that was wild. I'm like, really? I
I know.
mean,
I'm like,
people can tell me no, I don't know, but
I can't picture
I
it.
did,
No.
I did come across that, so
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I guess because Hard Rock Cafe is always in like your major metropolitan cities. That well, they're Kentucky.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
But that was like a hip hop happening place. I mean, who knew?
I mean, truly. Um, I suppose if it was good enough for Ella Fitzgerald, it was good enough for the Hard Rock Cafe. Um,
Like
so
for
in
real,
the
their food is terrible.
but the Prince Purple Rain outfit is the best. That's why I like to go there.
Okay.
In the mid 90s, a car shot down Licking Road, lost control, and smashed into a telephone pole just outside the club's front door. The occupants were killed immediately. Now, there's a man named Larry Hornsby was the first policeman at the scene. And as he stood there looking at the wreckage, a woman dressed in an evening gown came out of the club and offered him a pair of tablecloths to lay over the faces of the dead. The next week, Hornsby came by to thank her. Um, the club, he learned, had been locked and no such woman existed. So I was like, oh God, we're starting with the police already seeing stuff. All right, good, good, solid start. So once locals and employees started examining the unexplained events at Bobby Mackey's Music World, the reportedly paranormal happenings became more severe and potentially even demonic. At one point, the then caretaker of the club, Carl Lawson, was said to be possessed by a demonic entity that supposedly came from a history of satanic rituals held on the property that you had mentioned, Laura. And you said that was going on in what, the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s?
Yeah, that's what they were saying back after it was a meat packing plant. Like
Mm,
the locals started doing
gotcha.
crazy shit in there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yes, this Carl Lawson was said to be possessed by a demonic entity. Now, this Carl Lawson guy features heavily in my entire part of the story because he was a live-in caretaker at Bobby Mackey's, and he essentially was there all the time, lived there, worked there, would work in the bar when it was open. And so he sort of has like most all of the experiences that were going on. He began telling Bobby Mackey stories of being watched, of noises and phantom footsteps and shadows walking across the dance floor after everybody had left. Um, Presences of like people prowling around down in the basement. I would be like, I am not living here. I quit. Goodbye. But I suppose if you really needed a place to live, this sounds like a great job. Um, so Bobby himself was not really into the whole supernatural thing.
Mm-mm.
And he told this guy, Carl, I don't want to hear that. I don't want I quote, I don't want nobody to know nothing about that. Here I am putting everything I got in here. I didn't want to be scaring people off before we got started. So this Carl agreed to keep it to himself, and he continued to live in the upstairs apartment. sleeping with a brace against the door and a shotgun by his bed. I was like, okay, that might be something you want to, at least look into, Bobby. Um, so occasionally this Carl would try to update Bobby Mackey about the club's supernatural goings on, and Bobby refused to listen to it. His wife, Janet, on the other hand, his first wife, Janet, she listened to Carl and she really believed everything that he was saying. So in interviews that she had conducted prior to, she passed away in 2009. So prior to her passing, she recalled an overwhelming sensation of malice that seemed to bleed out of the walls. Worse, she claimed, and I remember hearing this on various paranormal shows that had done episodes about this place, that she had been attacked while she was alone in the building, with a force grabbing her by the waist and pushing her down a flight of stairs.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And in some tellings of the story, she was pregnant at the time. So soon, Bobby said that she flatly refused to enter the building alone. And other staff members also claimed to have had encounters of their own, glimpses, sounds, sensations of being watched or followed. But still, the spookiness of the club was mostly kept quiet from the patrons. Something talked about by the help and a few locals, but not really in an integral part of the building's identity. So that changed in 1989 when one of Bobby Mackey's friends, who happened to be a horror writer, named Doug Hensley, started hanging around the bar. And one night, the two of the men were chatting about Hensley's writing, and Bobby mentioned a few of the stories that Carl had told him about the club. So I guess that, of course, this guy that writes horror stories was like, I need to hear more. Let me talk to this Carl guy. So he goes over to try to talk to Carl and was asking him all of these questions, and Carl wouldn't tell him anything. So the friend went back to Bobby Mackey and was like, he won't tell me anything about it. And Bobby Mackey's like, well, I told him not to tell anybody about it. So finally, the Carl and this friend, Doug Hensley, wore Bobby Mackey down. And he's like, fine, tell him. Carl, tell him. You've been trying to tell me for years. I don't care. Just shut up about it with me. So Carl did. And his suspicions about the paranormal goings on inside the club had grown from what he was telling Bobby Mackey. So it was kind of like somewhere over the past 10 years, while cleaning out the basement of the narrow hallways and the dressing rooms in the basement, him and Bobby had discovered a series of holes chopped into the floorboards. Underneath was the well with its round mouth exposed and open, the dirt sifted and sunken, just sort of, it's like right by a train track. So like the earth is kind of moved as the trains have come through. So to Bobby, it was just a blocked up shaft, but the hole took root in Carl's imagination. And then it just sort of grew and grew and grew until he was saying there weren't just ghosts haunting Bobby Mackey's music world, there were demons as well. So that's kind of where the story started. And if you think about it, like, he was living there. Obviously, he was scared. There was something going on where he was scared enough to board the door shut or block the door shut with a shotgun by his bed. That you would imagine, especially over the course of 10 years living there, that your paranoia would grow and grow and grow. That makes sense to me. Where then these stories might escalate and your fear might get the better of you. So when he's talking about this to the author guy, he who was only too happy to listen to these stories, the author then was like, this is great. And then he went around and he was interviewing the staff and interviewing everybody about their paranormal experiences, with his new goal of writing a book about it. So Carl was like the main source of information, but Bobby, of course, he's the owner of it, so he decided that he would contribute as well. So in that kind of an environment, the idea that it's a demon haunted music club, it just couldn't help but attract attention.
Right.
And then the guy had released his book in 1989. And as people started to read about it and talk about it, and it started to gain press coverage, big name media people came calling. So in 91, Bobby, his wife Janet, and the caretaker Carl were invited to appear on Jerry Springer. The next year, they were on Geraldo. The momentum just kept growing. This book really took it into
Right.
a different stratosphere. Yeah. So this guy kept writing different versions of the book, like newer updates.
Mhm.
Kind of. In the final version, Hell's Gate: Terror at Bobby Mackey's Music World was released in 2005.
He
It
really
was
rode that for as long as he could,
a
huh?
while this guy did, yeah. It was lurid, it was sensational, it contained a mixture of historical research, breathless speculation, notarized personal accounts by staff and visitors. And then, of course, with the increased attention, Carl's stories became more dramatic. So Hensley, the author, his work and his work with Carl reveals that Carl had begun talking to himself. He reported constant trouble sleeping. He said that the demons were attacking him in his dreams. He soon claimed to be possessed by the evil spirits of the club. He submitted to an exorcism attempt, which was, of course, unsuccessful in 1993. This Hensley guy wrote about that in another manuscript titled "The Exorcism of Carl Lawson." And the introduction, read, Lawson knew he had bit off more than he bargained for. But becoming friends with his employers, he felt obligated to stay at this establishment until he could figure a way to rid the place of the evil that lurked inside. What he didn't know is that the evil there intended to use him, and use him they did. So it was real with a flourish, and just so even though Lawson was exorcised of this supposed entity, the demonic side of the story never truly abated.
Mhm.
And it even stoked more interest in the paranormal activity at Bobby Mackey's. And so it was around this time that the ghost tours began. So at first he said that they were really informal affairs. 2 or 3 people would be like, hey, can we go look at the basement? So we'd, send somebody to go down with them. They didn't really start getting people to volunteer to lead official ones until about 2005. So they had, this was going on from the mid 80s
Mhm.
till 2005. These books were coming out and more versions were being released. And so Bobby Mackey greeted all of this attention with growing resignation. He was embarrassed about it at first, he said.
Mhm.
And then, while that embarrassment is mostly drained away, it's left something kind of like a begrudging acceptance.
Mhm.
So apparently when you ask him about the hauntings, the excitement to talk to you about his nightclub kind of fades,
Mhm.
because he would rather it be known for the music and the
Right.
atmosphere, and all people want to talk about is the ghost. It's just kind of annoying. But he does say that I tried to stop it for a long time, and then it got bigger than me. I don't dwell on it. It's all about the music for me. Eventually, he signed up on ghost tours, and he allowed paranormal investigators to go in the building, and he charged a hefty fee for the privilege. I was like, okay.
Yeah, as
uh,
soon as he started making money, he's like, this isn't that bad. Be
this
ghosty.
isn't
It's
that
fine.
bad. It's fine. I'll just figure it out. If people wanted ghosts, then they could have ghosts as long as he himself didn't have to hear about it. But got the money for it. So again, not long after Lawson's story came out, theories about the exact sources of the hauntings began to swirl, and 2 spirits were soon identified as those women with the local women with the tragic backstories, Pearl and Joanna.
Mhm.
Um, so the first spirit, Pearl, Brian, Lawson claims he was told of her presence at the club during his possession. He says that during the possession, he learned that she was sacrificed as part of his satanic ritual on the property and had her head thrown down a well in the basement, which turned the well into the portal to hell. While pulling up a few basement floorboards revealed a well-like slaughterhouse drain from the original 1850s structure, which we'll show again because I can't get enough of that creepy thing.
Oh.
Not much else matched the true fate of Pearl Bryan. Your story and the way that what you had found is really the more accurate story of what happened to her.
Mhm.
So it's let's see here. Yeah, Alonzo Walling. Hang on. Okay. Despite the fact that they were arrested and hanged and they refused to say where the head was, done deal, numerous reports remain of patrons and employees at Bobby Mackey's uh, encountering the ghosts of this woman.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But she
The
was
other,
supposed to be killed at, like, they think on the property too, like, because it was originally, it was obviously quite larger, and
mm,
there's been structural changes over the years, but as far as different buildings, but all
yeah,
in the same.
kind of general area.
Mhm,
Okay. Well, then, I mean, it would make sense if she is there.
mhm,
Um, Joanna's ghost has become so well known that Bobby Mackey once wrote a song about her and her uncertain past life. And the song goes that in life she was Joanna Jules, possibly a stage name, and was a performer at the Latin Quarter, along with the daughter of one of the mob-connected owners. So he sings about her in this song.
hmm,
Now, Joanna went on to start that romance with the bar patron Robert Randall, who eventually got her pregnant when her father found out he had Randall killed. Joanna,
mm,
in a fit of desperation, took her own life in the building.
right,
Right? General idea? Okay. Problem with that is, much like the story of Pearl Bryan, there are many inconsistencies between the legend and life in Joanna's story. So none of the Cleveland Four mobsters nor any proprietors of the clubs before Bobby Mackey's had daughters named Joanna. And over time, many researchers identified the name Robert Randall as likely just a simple derivation from Bobby Mackey himself, as his full name is Robert Randall Mackey.
huh. Funny,
Right?
yeah. So, when I was doing the research too, that, like, that couldn't be verified, but since it's such a big part of, like, what
Hmm.
their story is, right, of, like, what goes on in there. I did include it, but yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely.
The Pearl Bailey, or was that her last name, Pearl Bailey?
Brian.
Brian.
Brian. Yeah, Brian.
Um, that stuff is, I mean, besides, like, what they did with the head, etcetera, nobody knows really. But,
Right.
the rest of that is, from newspapers, from,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yep.
like, you can look that up.
Yeah.
And how
That's
they found her killer, all of it. That's all
yeah.
legit, but there's a lot of stories that aren't necessarily verifiable through
Right. Hmm.
newspapers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, so there is a record of a Joanna Reagan committing suicide by poisoning in the area. She was recorded as having died in 1914, long before the property was used as a tavern.
Hmm.
She didn't die at 44 Licking Pike, which is the address of the club, but rather at 44 Pike Road. So that's an easy thing to, you know what I mean, to like
Hmm.
fix up. Um, so much like the entity of Pearl Bryan, visitors continue to report encounters with the spirit of Joanna, or um, or like what they are calling Joanna, even though it's not really clear which Joanna is the one in question, like the one in that they're talking about.
Hmm.
Um, so in 2004, this Carl Lawson told a reporter he saw a cloudish-like image, fluid-like cigarette smoke, fluid-like cigarette smoke
Hmm.
of two men hanging out in the basement, or not hanging out, hanging in the basement. He also stated that many believe the head of the woman murdered here which has never been found, like I said, is likely at the bottom of the well in the basement. Um, Employees report everything from dishes flying off tables, glasses being knocked off the bar stools and chairs being knocked over, people being attacked, their names being called, people being possessed, lights turn off and on, and the faucets in the women's bathroom turn off and on their own. Employees have stated that they have sat there and watched the faucet just turn on its own accord. They'll turn it off, they'll leave, they'll come right back in, and it's on again. Stop it! You don't pay the goddamn water bill here. Get water off. It's believed that Joanna's the one that's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
The jukebox. This is one of the more popular and famous claims of activity. Is the jukebox will play, start playing music all by itself, even when it's unplugged, and it's always the same song. It's called the anniversary song. I've never heard of this song, even though that record isn't even in the jukebox.
Oh, that's crazy.
Right? Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Down in the mechanical ballroom, there have been claims that objects will be moved from the pool table, and guests on paranormal tours will have cold air rush past them as if somebody walked by.
Mm-hmm.
Now, attendees of the tours often leave items behind as offerings to the alleged ghosts that roam the halls. So there's like a table there that has like money and coins and cigarettes, and it's just sort of kind of like at the Birdcage Theater. People are throwing money and stuff on the poker tables. There was a man named J.R. Costigan, and he was a bar regular. He's very fond of Western-style clothing and ice water in equal measure. I don't know what that has to do with anything. But he reported an attack in the men's bathroom at Bobby Mackey's while washing his hands. He looked into the mirror, and there it was, a man-shaped hole in the air, complete with a cowboy hat. It came at him, punching, kicking, clawing, and beating him until he fainted. Upon recovering, he ran straight to Bobby and told him he had to get control of his club's evil spirits. Bobby laughed, assuming it was a joke, but Costigan wasn't laughing. He actually sued Bobby Mackey for negligence in allowing the ghost to operate without any warnings to patrons. The judge, yeah, he actually sued him. The judge threw the case out, recommending that Costigan take the matter up with a higher power.
Maybe you need to find Jesus, dude.
Listen, dude. Yeah, you need Jesus. Following the advice of his lawyer, Bobby put up a warning sign on the front entrance. Crazy. The ghost, by all accounts, remains in the commode, but he does have this warning sign in the front entrance saying they're not responsible for anything a ghost might do. Which I thought was really freaking funny.
It is funny.
So in 2008, the premiere episode of the Travel Channel's reality show Ghost Adventures featured an investigation at Bobby Mackey's Music World. The Ghost Adventures crew, including show Zach Bagans, are an aggressively masculine take on the profession of a ghost hunter. A female friend of the authors once referred to them with perfectly understated disdain as the Ghost Bros. As everybody knows, I'm not a big fan of Ghost Adventures or Zach Bagans' techniques or methodologies. Their style is combative. They provoke ghosts by shouting at them, insulting at them, and daring them to come out and show themselves. And then when they do, they scream and freak out. So the Bobby Mackey episode, though, is kind of a mishmash of interviews with that Carl Lawson and the author of the book. Eventually, they spent the night there. They used night vision cameras. Zach Bagans received several scratches, allegedly from a phantom hand, and the crew went home happy. The episode was successful enough to spawn 2 sequels, including a web series, Return to Bobby Mackey's, and another episode in 2010. So all episodes were wildly popular. So visits to Bobby Mackey's by paranormal enthusiasts, which had flagged a bit, rocketed back up because of the show, and then as of yet hadn't come back down. Of course, like Laura said, they had just closed that location. The original location relocated to, what did you say?
Like just a different town right around the corner, I think.
Not far.
Not far.
And they're rebuilding on the same location. But yeah. Ghost investigations at Bobby Mackey's world are or were handled by Gatekeeper Paranormal, the club's resident supernatural investigators. Gatekeeper Paranormal team is comprised of 4 women from around Cincinnati and northern Kentucky. Their names are Laura, Angela, Mandy, and Kim. And since 2014, they've been leading 2-hour ghost tours on weekdays, along with the occasional 5-hour investigation. So they're kind of a group, sort of like us. Laura is an atheist and dedicated skeptic. Angela is slightly more cheerful one. Kim is non-committal. Mandy is a full-throated believer.
So it's like the Spice Girls, but for
Kind
ghost
of,
hunting.
yes. Right, yes. There's a scary spice. There's a, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do share is the devotion to the idea of ghost phenomena as something provable, scientific, and not a thing to be exaggerated or spiced up to make a better story, which I think you and I would wholly agree with.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, they had previously spoken about some former guides at Bobby Mackey's, who had added flashy details to various stories, details which were not really resembling the truth. So that Mandy had said that made it difficult for us because people who were from this area would come and take tours, and we would have to set the record straight. So I think that that's something that that you and I have encountered. We've often done research and talked about some of the more salacious or dramatic things that maybe we have found or people have claimed have happened at some of the locations, and then you and I go there and we're like, that's not really, and we talk to the owners, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's kind of commonplace. Obviously, if you're a tour guide, you want your guests to be like, oh my God, that's really creepy.
Right.
But as long as you keep it in the vein of truth, I don't, sometimes they really are crazy and salacious. So one of the guides there said that the best EVP they ever got at Bobby Mackey's was a female voice saying a long sentence, which is weird because normally it's just a word or two, and you and I can attest to that. I don't think we've ever gotten a long sentence out of an EVP. Usually it's just Staticom. We've ever heard that with Ron and Tony and them. But this one is kind of a whisper and in a Southern accent, and it says, "She does not like all these people in here." Could you imagine that EVP like that? Holy shit. So, she believes that as human spirits, ghosts likely maintain human emotion after death, and the building's history as a gathering place for rough men might have led to an unusual profusion of angry spirits. All 4 women on this Gatekeeper Paranormal agreed that sometimes the mood in the building is so ugly that they won't stay in there alone. So, despite the established differences between local lore, historical record, reports of powerful hauntings continually come out of Bobby Mackey's, and it has gained a reputation as being one of the most profoundly haunted buildings in the United States. Since the 1990s, Bobby Mackey's Music World has been featured on numerous television programs documenting its paranormal tales, including National Geographic's Is It Real?, Discovery Channel's A Haunting, Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, and Most Terrifying Places in America. I think that's where I first heard about it, was Most Terrifying Places in America. Destination America's Paranormal Lockdown, Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters, and the BuzzFeed Unsolved web series, which is always a big fun time to watch. I really enjoy that show. In fact, I use it as research sometimes in my portion. So private investigations and public events are common. More stories of intense experiences with the Honky Tonks ghosts continue to come out all the time. Teams have captured potential EVPs, photographic anomalies, video footage of strange occurrences, and have had countless personal experiences while investigating through the building. Like I said, though, the local lore and the history don't really match up. Some consider the tales just another layer of intriguing mystery behind Bobby Mackey's Music World, using them as further incentive to keep investing in the ghost stories to learn what the full story might be. And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
Right, not at all.
Yeah.
I agree.
Regardless, the club continues to be a must-stop for both local fans of country music and far-flung investigators of all things spooky and scary. Unfortunately, we missed our opportunity to be able to go and see it before they tore the original building down. God willing, they are filling in that freaking well.
For
Hopefully,
sure.
they're just gonna concrete right over that. So, and yet, Bobby Mackey's Music World is haunted, not by ghosts, but by Carl Lawson. Lawson died in 2002
Aw.
after a long slide into alcoholism led to his vacating the job of club caretaker. His picture still hangs above the bar, and both Bobby and the 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 people that knew him speak very highly of him. And as of yet, nobody appears to have been brazen enough to suggest that his ghost is haunting the building.
Mhm.
It's probably just a matter of time. His belief in the club's supernatural phenomenon seems likely to persist long after his death. That belief has threaded itself into the fabric of the club to the extent that most people who know Bobby Mackey's Music World now think of it as the most haunted honky tonk in the world. And
Mhm.
that is Lawson's legacy, a haunting reinforced by the endless tales he told to that author, by rumors and jumbled facts recorded by everyone who believed, in the void between established facts. In other words, a ghost story. And that is Bobby Mackey's Music World.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I did look up the Hard Rock thing. So it was named the Hard Rock. It is not a hard. It was not a Hard Rock. It
Oh,
was that was it was a named the Hard Rock. So there you go.
gotcha. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
that's fair
that
enough.
makes more sense.
That does make more sense too. Yeah. It is a shame that we never got to go there. I still think we should try. I think when they reopen in 2026, I think we should try because um, if it is haunted, uh, would the spirits still be there? Would you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and that's always a fun question to talk to people about what they think if the building was haunted and the building gets knocked down. Where do the spirits go? Do they stay with the land? Do they wander off? Do they cross over? Um, Certainly, you guys tell us what you think. What do you think happens when a building gets torn down? I fear that my precious Phelps Dodge Hospital is going to meet that fate sooner rather than later.
Hmm.
So what's going to happen to Mary and Michael and all of those spirits that are there? It's an interesting concept, and it's not one that I've actually done a lot of research on. So yeah, let me know. What do you think? What happens to them, Laura? Do they go on their way or stay there and haunt the new building?
Well, we talk a lot about what happens in the land before places are built, so I can't imagine. You know what I mean? Like, why would
True.
they?
Yeah, that's true. Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe, but
Maybe.
we've
Yeah.
talked a lot about places that were built on like sites of battles or
Battles. Yeah. There's a
murders. Like, I mean, this one even, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, there's
a
a lot
lot
of
of like yeah,
li-
blood and ground.
anytime there's, yeah, like a lot of killing in a certain place, and then they decide to build on it as they do.
A children's school or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't know. I definitely would like to go. I wish we could have seen the old location. I feel like that would have been a really that would have been a good time.
For well, not that basement.
No, not well, yeah, no, not the basement, not the well. But have you ever ridden a mechanical bull?
Surprisingly, I have not, although I
Would
probably
you?
would have many times.
Yes, me
Since
too.
I no longer drink, I don't know that I would feel so brazen.
Yeah.
Because things don't hurt when you're drunk, but they hurt when you don't drink.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, they
Well,
hurt
they hurt
later when you
after you're
drink,
no
but,
longer
like,
drunk. Yeah.
all that, liquid courage, I think, helps a lot.
Right? It just kind of relaxes your body to let you be thrown around. If you were
Yeah,
drunk and you knew what was
and
happening,
just to get on in the first
yeah,
place, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
mm, I have watched many a drunk person ride a mechanical bull, though, and it is
I would
very
absolutely,
entertaining.
yeah, I
But
would
I
absolutely,
don't know that I ever wanna be that girl
I probably
that
will be
gets
it.
flung off.
Maybe I don't know. I'm falling apart. The road to 50 is becoming a very bumpy one for me. So I don't know what's happening. Um, All right, guys. Well, so you have a couple of questions to answer. What do you think happens to the ghosts when their building gets knocked down or bulldozed or raised or whatever? And would you or have you ever ridden a mechanical bull? Let us know. Um, we are so glad to be back. We have missed you guys very, 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 very much. New episodes, still the same sort of situation. These ones are going to drop Mondays. The snack size episodes are going to drop on Wednesdays. This week is my week, and we have a lot of fun in that episode. So that's all I have. Laura, why don't you tell everybody how amazing my skincare stuff is and that they should shop with me?
Definitely do that. Go shop.
Go shop.
Some bath bombs.
Yes.
The lotion also
Yeah.
super, super great.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
love the magnesium spray.
Oh, do you really? Good.
I take magnesium supplements anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, I like them for my achy old lady body.
Right. Road to 50 is not helping any of us, is it? No.
So it's nice.
Good. Okay. Good. Yeah, I've got a lot of folks that use it for. It helps the neuropathy in my feet. So that's when I started using it, and then I've had a couple of clients have restless leg syndrome, and it actually helps them their tics calm down at night. And then there's some that use it for their anxiety. Another one uses it. She just says, as we age, achy leg muscles, and it really works. She actually reached out to me and wanted to know if I'd ever considered selling it in a larger size, because right now we just use the 4-ounce bottles. Here's one. We just have the 4-ounce bottles. And she was wanting to know if we would ever consider a 32-ounce bottle of it. I was like, whoa, okay, for sure. I mean, we could certainly, do a special order for you. But yeah, a lot of people use it. It's our biggest seller, which really, really surprised me. But, it was, I liked it. I was like, this is great. So yeah, shop with us, this little light of mine skincare.com. As a reminder, you can use code HOH15 for 15% off of your first order. The holidays are coming, guys. So, shameless plug all over the place. And then, yeah, if you need some spiritual wellness, we'll be talking about that in the coming weeks as well. So stay safe out there. You never know who
Or what?
is going to cut off your head and throw it down a well and create a massive world of problems for a, a, a music
Generations.
proprietor. Yeah, a poor music proprietor who just wants to sing country music and ride his mechanical. God bless you, Bobby Mackey. Hopefully, we get to meet you one day. I'm sure he's going to listen to this.
I'm sure.
All right, guys, that is it for us. We will see you next week with a brand new episode. Until then, we love you and goodbye.